live. All right. Hello, everybody out there in live YouTube land. Gonna get started here in a minute with the one and only.
Recording a little earlier tonight. Yeah. Nice. Kind of like
all
it.
The East Coast peeps don't have to wait until the next morning just to watch the old feed, you know? It's weird. Like, some people who actually jump in are in either Central Time Zone or Eastern Time Zone. I'm like, what are you guys doing up? People who I always see on Twitter and stuff, I'm like, dang, you guys are up at like 1 a.m. Go to sleep. But we appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah, you can't tell fans
I know,
to go
right?
to
Get
sleep,
off my stream.
Boy.
Stop supporting me. Okay, cool. Pulling up some of my notes for the intro. All right. Mark, if you're ready to go. Mr. Jason Douglas, if you're ready to go ahead and start. All
Absolutely.
Right. Welcome, everybody, to 176. Let's go. Okay. So for recording purposes, let's get 10 seconds of silence in 3, 2, and 1. And you'll see me say the little intro, like first 3 words, like twice. Because sometimes when I say it, hey, what's up, everybody? That first 3 words is like, boom. So I usually say it twice, and that way the second one, for some reason, it sounds way better. I don't know. Okay. What is up, everyone? What is up, everyone, and welcome to a very special 176th episode of the Comic Bookies podcast. Before we get started, this episode is brought to you by Treasure Island Comics in Fremont, California. Wednesday, February 1st, 2023 is New Comic Book Day, so wherever you go to get your comic books, go and get them. Especially at Treasure Island, Alex is open Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Now, this man has been on our show 3 times already. I am very, very excited. Myself and Mark are very excited. This man loves talking hoop, might not like talking about, football and other things, but you know what? We're going to get into it anyways. He is a sheer joy to have on. 2022 was a roller coaster year for him, and he is here to talk about it. He is from Source Point Press. He is here to talk about the special edition of one of our favorite books out there, Parallel. Special edition expands upon Landon's story with 50 bonus pages of exciting content, galleries, annotations, and a brand new Between the Panels 10-page story exclusive to this edition. So go and right now, pre-order that in your previews right now. He's also here to talk about Jane American, his new project right now, and we're going to talk about everything under the sun. But Mr. Jason Douglas, so happy to have you on for a fourth time record here. You've heard it here first, record fourth time. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. It is always good to be on. It is always good to see you. This is my fourth ring. I'm now tied with your beloved Warriors, right? I feel good about that. And let's we're going to talk Jane American today, the Kickstarter in May. I'll come on a fifth time, and hopefully by then we're thinking about a fifth ring.
That's right.
Too.
You're going to start collecting episodes like Thanos collects these Infinity Stones, for sure. Mark, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? How are you, JD? I'm glad to see your face again. It's been a while, but like you said, it's a fourth time now, and I'm just excited to hear what you got going on, how life's been treating you coming out of this pandemic here, and just excited to get into some of your projects and some NBA talk. We know how much you love your Detroit Pistons on this show, so yeah, man. I'm actually questioning now, because you mentioned Kickstarter, so now I'm kind of questioning my background here, because you're still good with Source Point Press and everything.
Yeah, your background is valid. Your background is valid. It's just time to make a comic in the 21st century,
right?
And the way it is done is by crowdfunding it first, and then getting it to your publisher after that. So I have to do it the very much the normal mortal way this time, not the bizarre story and the atypical way that Parallel first got out in the world that we talked about a couple of years ago.
Man, the 21st century, you're right. And the way that they're going about it now with Kickstarter and everything, we actually had a guest, if you remember, Mr. What was his name? Mike, the one that he had real good success with Cal what's
Frank
his
Gogol.
name? Not Frank Gogol. I forgot, but he had real good success with the one that we were like trying to pronounce his name. What is it? Cal something. I can't remember. You remember it. I can't remember. I'm doing bad right now. But anyway, he had real fast success with Kickstarter. He had moved from the East Coast to LA, and he was doing it down there. I'd have to get his Curtis
Clowell.
Yeah.
Clow. Curtis Clow.
Right? Yeah. Curtis Clow.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's right.
Sorry, Curtis. But yeah, he had real good success with Kickstarter real fast. So we're hoping the Comic Bookies podcast and everyone hoping the best for you as well, and hopefully you can have just as fast a success as well.
Thank you.
So, all right, Jason, let's talk about it. So, we've had you on numerous times to talk about the Ringo Award nominated story Parallel. We have, I think, collected, me, Mark, and Sean. No one has our collection, right? We have the first printing of Parallel. We have a copy of the first printing signed by yourself, and then we have the one of one. This absolutely, oh my God, I didn't even want to touch it. Oh, this is just absolutely amazing. So
it'd be nice if you can take it out of the plastic.
I can't,
asshole, so people can actually see it.
I don't want to. I don't want to put any fingerprints on it. Absolutely not.
All I saw was a bunch of glare, like my glasses on this screen right now.
Well, you know what? And thankful for all the YouTube viewers out there. That's all you're going to get, because I'm not taking that damn book out of the plastic.
Check our Instagram. Go back on the feed. You guys will see it. It's beautiful, and I'm glad we got it.
Jason, I'm so excited for you in this book because it's had so much success in the past. So please just kind of expand on what we can expect when this book comes out in a few months, in a month or two, right? When is this coming out?
Yeah, so special edition is in previews right now, right? And it's taking that original story that we've done on the show before, and the weird way that it sold out, 18 months after it dropped, kind of right into the pandemic and flopped on release, and then the whole kind of atypical way I went on 75 interviews and went on your show 3 times, and it slowly caught fire and word spread and it sold out, and then got the 2 Ringo nominations, which kind of spurred SourcePoint to be like, you know what, this probably deserves a special edition. And then they kind of gave me a lot of autonomy to put together a special edition, to put together the bonus pages, to put together all the content. And I took it really seriously. And listen, if you're anything like me, you love back matter, you love bonus stuff, like the concept of a I don't know, a director's cut or a special edition or an expanded edition. I love that. But if you're a comic book fan, you've bought that trade where you get to that back matter and let's be honest with each other, it's sometimes just fluff to pad out the page count. And that's something that, like, I mean, you and I have talked before about, like, bang for your buck, especially in indie comics, is really, really important and was, like, always on my mind, just creating the original story. So finding out and deciding what those 50 pages were going to be, like, I took it really seriously, and like, there's an afterword that's in my voice that very much tells the tale of how we got to point A to point B to the bizarre point Z. The annotated script pages and the annotated concept art and stuff like that. It's not just your typical, oh, this is from this page or this is from this part of the book and that kind of thing, just the kind of the technical details. Like, I had to edit myself and, like, take chunks out because I was just writing too much, because it's more like the story behind the pages. There's, like, this one part with the script pages where I tell you what this scene is and why it was important, but I'm also telling you about, like, the bizarre circumstances in which I wrote that scene, right? Like, I'm literally on a date with my wife at this street fair, and she ducks into a shop, and I get hit like lightning bolt with this idea for this one particular scene, and I'm literally sitting on a street corner pulling paper out of my back pocket with a pen as, like, these dudes in the street are playing bago, playing cornhole, and the beanbags are whipping past my head, and I'm, like, scribbling it down, and that's the kind of story that you're getting from that. There's a really cool cover gallery with all those wicked covers that we almost just saw on YouTube, but instead just saw some glare. And then my we've guilted him into it, dude. He's gonna pull it out. And he's gonna come and show it.
Fine. You know what? It's still in the plastic bag. So not only is it
Okay.
It was in, like, a hard case, but it's also in a plastic bag. So let's see if we could see it for the YouTubers right now. Let's see if we could see. It's more here. Oh,
The Donnie Darko skull variant, and you've got the 1 of 1, which is the hand drawn by Esteban himself, getting the microphone on there. Yeah, only one of those in the world. So there's the cover gallery, and then my favorite part of the bonus material is what you mentioned in the open, a bonus 10-page story that dives back into the world with Parallel, exclusive to this edition. And I don't know if I'm coining a phrase or not, but I'm, like, calling it a between the panels story, right? Because the inspiration from it came from, like, my beloved Marvel comics of the 80s, where the footnotes, the editor footnotes, were, like, rampant, right? Where, like, literally you get a footnote that says this major cross, like, Secret Wars took place between panels 7 and 8 of this book. And you're like, what? They didn't even change expression. How could there be this whole thing? And so what you're literally doing in this 10-page story is, between this scene and that scene in the original story, between this page and that page, we zoom out and we get these 2-page vignettes that go back with Landon and go back with Claire, and you get a little more development character-wise, and, like, what happened between this scene and that scene that led to it. And it just enriches the whole thing. And if you love the book as much as some people did, it allows you to spend some more time and get a little more depth with some of these characters you end up caring about. And it's kind of like a cool story to tell, because I don't know if we ever talked about this on your show or not, but, like, as things were developing and the book started to catch on, one of the most common questions I got was, is there a part 2 coming? Is there more story to tell? And I was always very adamant that no. I mean, that, if you've read it, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, that last page, the splash at the end that has that ambiguity of what exactly, it says something about you, if you think this happened to Landon, if it went this way, or if it got really dark and went that way. And to go beyond that, I really kind of felt strongly that, like, it takes too much too much autonomy out of the reader's hands. You know, it's
Right.
your decision about what happens to him next or doesn't happen to him next. It's not my job to take that away from you and tell you how it goes. But this allowed me to tell more parallel story without going past that last page and actually diving back into the story as it was and expanding upon it.
Now, you kind of answered my question that I was about to ask, because I kind of thought of it as you were, talking about your inspiration for the in-betweens, right? I can kind of compare it to, it's something completely different, but there's, if you've seen the movie Zootopia, the Disney movie Zootopia, they have like a new show. I forgot I think it might just be Zootopia, like the shorts or whatever. And there's like 6 or 7 shorts that they've released now. It's new content and it's like in between, right? So it's like when the little, I forgot what they're called, like little mole rats or whatever, when the girl is going to get crushed by the huge donut, they have a story that leads up to that. So it's in between the pages and the panels of Zootopia the movie, but it's completely expanded. Did you ever think to maybe release not a part 2, but something that's separate? Because you said that sometimes you had to stop and delete some things. Do you think that you ever wanted to do something like that, where it's a completely different story, but it's within the pages from one to the end of parallel?
Well, that's kind of what this is on a small scale, right? I mean, that's really what this is. In fact, it's funny that you said that and you remember that, because like I would say, it's this 10 pages and like these 2-page vignettes, and it progresses. But it also fills in little gaps. But 2 of them in particular come from that exact thing that you talked about. A scene here that in the original script was just a little extended, and Bob Sally edited it back just because of pacing reasons. And here you get to kind of expand upon that because I thought it was an important point. Something that popped up a show a couple of weeks ago, and it was a much better analogy than the thing that I gave, which is the editor's footnotes. It reminds me a lot, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but like the first 36 issues or 35 issues of classic X-Men in the early 90s had a backup story, a brand new backup story on every single issue that was literally in continuity, but you didn't see it in that original 70s into the 80s run of Claremont. And it's like, oh, and this is kind of what happened after that issue before the next one started. And it's like a quieter moment between Wolverine and a tree, or whatever. And that's kind of what this is doing. So it's literally enriching the story without, derailing the pace or anything of the original book.
Now I'm going to say, I think this is the first time we've had you live. So one of the joys of being live, we actually have some questions. So I actually have just one right now.
Cool.
The username is 3 Blood Rubies. Thank you so much for the question. This question's for Jason. Is the regular edition of Parallel still in print, or is it only the special edition now? I haven't gotten into his works yet. I know him as my 4th grade teacher 12 years ago.
Oh, I'm so old. So the original run of the book is sold out, right? And in fact, it sold out in such a bizarre fashion. I don't know if we got to talk about this, but when I was in Baltimore, selling out an exclusive run there, a con edition of it, and then doing the award show, I'm doing my very first panel at a con. And editor-in-chief at the time of SourcePoint, Travis McIntyre, is in the panel with me, and he's like, "So I don't know if you know this yet, but when you did all those interviews and the book started to catch on, they ended up going and buying back copies from stores to meet the online demand of it. And then those original ones are gone. You can find them every once in a while here or there, but this is." I mean, it's a special edition. You can also call it in some ways a second print or whatever, but this is the way to get it now.
3 Blood Rubies. I have one right here you can buy, but I'm selling it for $1,000. So,
it's totally been one of the weird fanboy things that has happened. Like along this weird long journey, there's all these different things where you're like the 12-year-old in me, speaking of 12 years ago, 4th grade and stuff, but the 12-year-old in me, the 10-year-old in me is like, yay, I can't believe this is happening, And one of those was, even though it doesn't benefit my publisher financially, and it certainly doesn't benefit me financially, but like when you find something online, like in the secondary market of yours, and like it's maybe going for a price that makes you a little embarrassed, but it's still wild. Like I have no idea how a 1 of 1 would go, but like those. Do you remember the Virgin foil variants of that book? There was only like 100 of those out there or whatever. There was a point where I was looking online and I saw one on eBay and somebody had bought it for like $150, which is just insane.
Very cool.
I can't wrap my head around that sometimes, knowing that I've been a comic book fan exponentially longer than I've been a creator. So like that kind of stuff still blows me away.
And it'd be nice to get the original print, but man, this special edition cover, I think by Lix Lion, is badass here.
It's
man.
really cool.
I'm looking at it.
So I love it. It might be my favorite cover right now. It is so
that
nice.
neon pink,
that
pop.
neon. I posted it on IG and I just put Stranger Things behind it because it's got that mid to late 80s vibe to it, and thematically it's really nice. I love that cover. Yeah, Lex Lyon blew it out of the water with that. She's amazing. With
the Ringo nominee little badge on the bottom left corner.
Yeah,
let
bad,
it
right?
be known. It's a beautiful cover.
I like that they left it there and it says, Ringo nominee, and it does not mention how I lost both awards to the guy who writes Batman. It doesn't mention that at all, which is really nice of them to leave that off the cover.
But it's still a slight flex. I love it.
And it's gonna be a surprise for us also, because obviously we read before we ever interviewed you, we got it, and this is like the new pages that you have in between. It's gonna be new for all three of us that are gonna be reading it as well. So we're with the fans, and we're just it's all gonna be new to all of us. We don't have no sneak peek this time. So
right,
excited.
And we have 4 on order, by the way, 1 for each of us, and we have 1 to give away. So maybe if you want to be a part of that giveaway, we'd love to have you on again. But yeah, just let you know, we got 4 coming in when it comes out.
100%. That would be awesome. Yeah.
All right, cool. So from Parallel to, the better part of the 3 episodes you've been on before have been your book Parallel. Now let's shift gears. Talk about Jane American. Like we've had, let's see, Mark, 4 or 5 different comic book writers who've had their stuff and been promoting them on Kickstarter. We go on there, I think, what's his name? Name forgets me.
Curtis Clow.
Curtis Clow, yeah, but no.
Dude, I feel so bad for the guy. He gave us a really good story. Remember, we were impressed. We're like, dang, because he actually owned up to it. He was like, he's like, I know it's kind of hard sometimes to like make it in this industry. You remember the conversation? You can look back when we I don't know probably 120s, 110s or something. But man, I was pretty impressed, because I even asked him. It seemed like sometimes it's like we get a lot of guests that it's like it's hard, it's a struggle, and he said once he kind of moved to LA and like hooked up with the right people, that it kind of just hit for him. So it's pretty cool.
I was thinking more on Victor Dandridge. And his Kindergartens. It's kind of a story. It's a Kickstarter. It's a story that it's like the daughters and sons of all the superheroes, right? So it's, obviously it's not going to be Batman, Superman. They don't have obviously the rights to do that, but it's stories surrounding them. And it's so cool to go on their Kickstarter to see that they've already been fully funded at, a week into it, and the different, levels of, if you gift them this, then they'll give you so many back. So I can't wait to get his book. I can't wait to, support your book and get a few in, maybe even another extra one again for a giveaway. So please, Jane American, fire away. I promote the hell out of this thing. I'm thoroughly excited.
So we'll talk about how this is all kind of happening out of order, I think, in a little bit, because the original plan was to actually do this Kickstarter back in August, and then a big topic that we're going to talk about fairly soon, kind of life got away instead. So we kind of reversed the order just because, some of the material for special edition already existed, and I had done a lot of curating on that already. Running a Kickstarter, especially your first, right? It's a terrifying and a really time-consuming process. So my first Kickstarter for my next project will be in May, and Jane American is similar to Parallel in the fact that it is a story near and dear to my heart. It's a story that's very personal to me. The difference with this one is this is not a dark sci-fi twisted tale that is, forgive me for using the term, but paralleling my own midlife crisis of time passing, the existential dread, and funneling it into Landon having his quarter life crisis. This is a very personal story to me because it's a period piece. It's 1946, small town, Plymouth, Michigan, which it's very important to me because it's kind of it's inspired by my late grandmother and some of the struggles that she went through with identity around the same time, though she was a little bit older at that time. And we've got a 15-year-old female protagonist, Jane, who's kind of living in that post-war era where the Rosie the Riveters have been sent home, right? And the troops are back and women are back in their place and back in their role. And she's in a family situation where she needs to help put bread on the table, and she can do things, and she is capable of things that aren't really accepted in society. And it's personal to me in that respect. It's very much dedicated, though, to all of the students who have passed through my classroom the last 20 plus years, especially the young women and the non-binary humans who, even in the 21st century are having a hard time expressing and being who they are when society says that's not okay. You extrapolate that back to 1946 when those strictures are even more intense, and you can kind of feel the tension in our characters as they try to express who they are. I'm trying not to give away too much because, and I think probably when we talked about it in its more infant stages before, I gave away more. The difference here is this Kickstarter, we're talking about a 32-page one-shot that ends on, look, if I've got any skills with a cliffhanger, the last panel of this 32-page one-shot is what's going to make you absolutely force you to go, oh, I need the next part of the story. I'll give you this hint. It's similar to Parallel in the fact that Parallel is a story that I told that, while is about those darker themes of dreams deferred, time passing, and the existential dread and anxiety that comes with that happening, but it's all wrapped in that dark sci-fi twisted tale of Landon's other coming and offering him that second chance. Jane American is really about, at its core, those universal themes of identity and race and gender and self-worth and expressing who you are. The comic book nerd wrapping paper I put it in, I'm not going to give away, but it's a tried and true one throughout the last 90 years of comic books, and it's one that is near and dear to my heart. Some of the things that she can do, and it's just I got to do all kinds of wild research for this, and I'm so excited because it's very much 1946, but a lot of flashbacks to the World War II era. It takes place, a lot of it, in an actual. It was a shop called Wall Wire. That's a real place in Plymouth that my great grandfather worked in during the war years. Got a tour of it literally the week before they segmented and tore it down. My about to be 99-year-old grandfather and I got a tour of it and the original fixtures and stuff. And this is a place where during the war they got a war contract to make Marsden mats, which are the long kind of corrugated pieces of metal that you make the temporary runways for in Europe and the Pacific. And Rosie's worked it during the war. And then the troops came back, and Plymouth was one of two shops in the entire country that held on to that contract. They're in someplace in Alabama to kind of feed the need for Marsden mats for the Berlin airlift. So there's a lot of history in it too, local history, family history. I named a lot of characters after like family members' names, so they're like really thrilled about that. I got to show a week away from being 99 years old, my grandfather, I got to show him pages of art that'll be like the teaser pages on the Kickstarter, and I shared with him a copy for himself. I printed out a copy of the 32-page script, and this almost 100-year-old man who fought in World War II like had tears in his eyes because it's the main character's named after his high school sweetheart, and there's a couple of characters that share part of his name and his parents' names and stuff like that. So, I'm terrified because I've never done a Kickstarter before. I'm super excited because it's a story that is accessible to a much wider range, right? Like I don't have to put like a 17 plus stamp on this one. This is like when this story gets told. This is the kind of thing when like the 120-page graphic novel, which is like the next step of it after the Kickstarter, is out in the world. This is the kind of thing that's going to be hopefully in school libraries, as well as, out in the world. And to get to share that with him and everybody really, really means a lot to me.
That's awesome, brother. Man, first of all, thank you for your grandpa for serving for our country, number one. Yeah. Number two, I'd say, man, we're going to try to help you as much as we can as a podcast, as, maybe like get some help with our sponsor, Treasure Island Comics, to try to help you and whatnot. But man, dude, it's just, I think that's awesome. And when you were actually talking and building up to kind of giving a little bit of the story without giving too much away, I can see how you were getting giddy and whatnot. And man, it explained it all, because the one thing that, a lot of people say about writing books and it like kind of leaves you, it's one way to leave your legacy behind. Like one day we're all perish, but if you've ever been, which you already have, and now, but this one is going to be so much even near and dear to your heart, because you're not just leaving a legacy behind for yourself, but it's more for like the ones that like got you here, right? And your grandparents and just, Plymouth and Michigan and just your whole story and life. And that's like kind of like a little legacy piece that you're writing for your family. And that's just awesome to hear, dude. And I'm just so proud that you were able to share it with us and our fans. And I just am very excited to help you support it and to be able to read it as well. So congratulations to you, brother, for real.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Now, it being so near and dear to your heart in Plymouth, actually one of the commenters actually kind of sparked a question, right? So you said that you want it to be in libraries and schools. It being set in Plymouth, is there images of Plymouth, maybe in, I don't know how many years it spans, but is there images of the actual city of Plymouth? So that way, especially people who are local, right, and they get these in libraries or in schools or whatever, they can like, oh my God, like that's where I live.
The reference, like the amount of research I did in preparation for the book, it's pretty extensive. Like it was a very different research process than Parallel. Like Parallel was, because Parallel is more or less contemporary, right? And there's a little, because it takes place in Chicago, so there's a little street reference and a few buildings and things like that. But like most of my research for Parallel was getting the professions right and getting the words right. So like every single line that has something medical going on, like when Landon gets hit by the bus in the beginning and when he's in his coma. And I mean, that was like literally talking to my cousin on the phone several times, who's a doctor in Boston, and saying, what would the paramedics say here? What's the drug they're pushing into it here? What would the doctor say here about the coma? And like that kind of stuff. And talking to my old college roommate, who is a police officer now, about what would a detective say under this circumstances. It was that kind of thing. This was so much more historical research, right? Like I went to the archives in the museum in Plymouth to find, reference photos to this and that. And I have to say, I went to the real place and I took a lot of film and a lot of pictures of like the original fixtures and the original pulley system that like carried the Marsden mats from here to there and out to the train depot that kind of butts right up to the back of the factory. And you'll like people who know architecture will see there's this great, very emotional scene where Jane's dad in December 1941 heads off to Europe, right after Pearl Harbor and volunteers, and that goodbye takes place at the very historic and now very rundown Detroit train station. But that's a pretty like recognizable building for people in southeastern Michigan, and that's in there. And there's definitely some houses in the Plymouth, Northville, Canton area that people might recognize if you're like, going down the streets and things like that. So there's a lot of things to recognize like that for sure.
You know what's funny? Sometimes I'm reading comic books and like what I'm reading, I'm always thinking, I'm like, man, these comic book writers must be some very intelligent, smart individuals, because they seem to know a lot about, like you said, medical terms and whatnot. So I love how you just basically let me know without even asking you the question. It's just, so that's how they do it. I mean, comic book writers, it's not just
like, look, if you're not in the medical profession, right? I probably could have written a bunch of stuff that would have fooled you, right? I could have probably made up some things or looked up some things online and you wouldn't know the difference. But like, my thought is, if I'm going to ask you to suspend your disbelief and get into a story about a parallel version of a guy reaching out and offering him a second chance at his poor life decisions 10 years earlier. If I'm going to ask you to suspend your disbelief for that, I'm not going to pull you out of my story by you're the one doctor in the office who goes, what? That's not right. Or you're the one cop in the audience who goes, that is not what somebody would say in an investigation. You know what I mean? Or you're the one mental health professional when Landon's on the couch who goes, absolutely not, wrong drug to prescribe or wrong thing she would say. I want to get all that right. And the same thing here. Like, you know what? I'm a comic book nerd, but like academically, growing up, I was a history nerd. And so there's no way I'm going to be the guy who, again, I'm going to ask you to suspend your disbelief about certain comic book tropey things that I'm wrapping Jane American in, right? The ability for certain people to do certain things. And then you're going to be pulled. I'm going to ask you to believe that, but then I get, it's the wrong car for 1946. Or,
right.
or like, wait a minute. Is that a cordless phone on their wall? Of course not, right. So like, I've got this awesome file that my artist has got access to, and my editor, Dr. Christy Blanche, has got access to, and it is full. We're talking about if you see something in their house, like I spent hours scouring the internet for my favorite pictures of ice boxes, pre-refrigerator freezing apparatus that would be in a kitchen in 1946 and 1942, but more or less from the 1930s because they're not made of money. You know what I mean? I spent hours finding welding tools appropriate for the era and loved every minute of it. Because I know that most people aren't going to notice those details, but the people who are going to appreciate the crap out of it.
Because there's so many different aspects to a book visually that you're going to have hundreds of different subject matter experts pointing out the individual thing that they know the most. So you kind of have to be a faux subject matter expert when doing this research for everything for a book. So that just kind of, gives you so much more credit as to the work you put in to write these books.
You're never going to get it all. You're never going to get it all right. But I'm going to still do my best to get as much of it right as I can.
Yeah, it reminds me of like with that Criminal Sanity book, the Joker Harley. It's like some of, the right, like I think was that Cami Garcia on that one, if I'm not mistaken. But man, it's just like I expect that type of stuff from like Tom King coming from like his CIA background and whatnot, which, he writes a lot of those type of detective-ish type, and I obviously he knows what he's talking about. But man, back to like your art, how would you kind of describe the art in this book? If you don't, I mean, if you not by not giving too much away, but
well, I will. So got the 5th of the 5 Kickstarter pages actually today, and my artist, who I am not going to give away who that is quite here yet. She will make her big public debut at a later date, closer to the Kickstarter thing. But I have been so impressed. This is a young person that is just knocking it out of the park for me. Perfect style for what we're doing here. The realism of the time period, the emotion. There's a lot of emotion in this. There's a lot of pretty intense emotional scenes. There is, I don't know if you guys remember, but like I remember talking about this on the show. Like my favorite panel from Parallel that Adam did was that one on that kind of noirish page where with the Venetian blinds and it looks like out of a noir thing, and like Landon's like in the gloom and sitting in that chair. Look, it's a 32-page one shot. It's a 120-page original graphic novel. I may have already seen my favorite panel where there's an embrace between two characters, and my artist on this can pack an emotional punch. There is like it leapt off the page to me. Like I felt what they were feeling towards each other in that embrace, and it just blew me away. I cannot wait for the world to get a hold of this young person and the art that she's doing.
Well, we're really, proud to have you on to, promote this, and we can't wait till it gets released, and we're going to promote the hell out of it. So,
yeah, I'm going to need all the support I can get, because I cannot reiterate to you guys how terrified I am, because like the unknown is the scariest thing out there. And So technically, sophomore effort, I am a veteran comic creator, and yet this is the first time I've been doing this. And Kickstarter had that brilliant idea at its inception of, boy, let's see if we can, it's not enough to, have to have people self-fund themselves. Is there a way we could make it more intense and more stressful for creators? Oh, wait, I know, this is the pitch meeting. How about all or nothing? How about we do it in an all or nothing system so that the pressure is not here, it is off the charts here. So I'm feeling the burn already. We're still months out. So yeah. I mean, this community, right, is the best. So I feel pretty good about it. But also, so any support, all support, bring it.
Is this something that you wanted to just go with Kickstarter all the way? Is it something that did you even think about pitching it to Source Point Press or
the plan will be is so I may or may not have. Okay, I'm going to give you some half breaking news. All right, I'm not going to say a name, but I will say that maybe a couple of days ago, we secured a rather impressive, very appropriate for this book, cover artist for the Kickstarter exclusive cover.
Very cool.
Okay. So the plan would be we've got our 5 pages of art, we've got our pitch, we've got all our levels of support and the different kind of things you can get with that, and then our stretch goals, and we've got this very, very nice Kickstarter exclusive cover with this very, very nice cover artist. And that will be that, right? If you support it at this level, you're going to get your digital copy. You support it at this level, you're going to get your exclusive cover. You support it at this level, maybe we'll do 5 medals or something like that. And then you go beyond and and then that'll be that. But because of my relationship with a publisher, however many months after we fulfill all that, the hope would be, or the plan would be, it would be in previews with a new cover, by the artist, and it would go out like that, and that would be something in the world. And then we work on funding the 122-page graphic novel, and we'll see how we put that out.
Nice.
Well,
hopefully, fingers crossed that we get a chance to get it twice, right? Right.
Yes.
So, okay, so we can't. So Parallel came out, a couple years ago now? Yeah. So
19,
something like that, 19, 20. It was before the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
right into
it.
It
was solicited February 20 and was delivered to some shops and not some other shops
that's
in
right.
April 20. So
that's right, because
and then that, like I said, it flopped. I mean, it flopped hard. No, I wasn't self-aware enough of how things work to know it did, and wasn't self-aware enough to know that you were supposed to quit and give up at that point or move on. And that's why that blissful ignorance that we've talked about before, that irrational confidence, I just went ahead and did 75 interviews over 18 months, and it turned into what it turned into because I didn't know better. So that's why it's such a weird kind of atypical success story of what it turned into. So from
then until being nominated for a Ringo Award, and now with this Kickstarter and the special edition of Parallel coming out, something small happened in between last year in 2022. So, I mean, it was from seeing your live feed, that video that you kind of announced it on Instagram, and then just kind of us sending messages of well wishes and everything, and finally having you back on the podcast now. Please, with any detail you want to, whether it's 1% or 100%. Man, first of all, congratulations on this step in the process of as of right now. I'm guessing is you're cancer free as of today. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not the subject matter expert. I'm not the doctor. So please.
Oh, neither am I. Yeah, I'm just the guy who the doctors tell stuff to. Listen, this goes for everybody, right? It's like life is literally that roller coaster. It's a cliche, but it's true. There are ups and there's downs, and some are bigger than others, and it's all going on at once. And at the exact same time as my comic journey is taking its ups and its downs, and there's this delay and this disappointment and this high and whatever, life is doing the exact same thing. So in that process of Parallel on the journey that it was, my immediate family is going through some pretty big ups and downs, and my wife, within 1 year, my wife lost both of her parents, and then my dad died suddenly as well. So like my kids lost three of their four grandparents in like 9 months of time. And summer 2022 was supposed to kind of be like our family of fives return to normal, bounce back. We had a couple of trips planned. We were going to spend a lot of time together. There was this, there was that. And it was going to end with us coming back in August. I was going to run the Jane American Kickstarter, and like things were like looking good and looking up. So instead what happened is I went in for a non-symptomatic, a routine colonoscopy, because 2022 was the year that the law changed. They can't force you to get a colonoscopy, but they can tell doctors that now legally they have to recommend that you get your first one at 45 instead of 50, which was like a decades-old tradition. So the year I turned 45 is the year that the law changes. And I'm a school teacher by day, so I'm a rule follower, right? And when my doctor said, go do this unpleasant thing, I'm like, okay. And I go through that whole thing and the fasting and the taking the stuff and hanging out on the toilet all night, which was not fun. But, I went in and, the expectation is that it goes the way it goes. And I come out of the anesthesia and a GI doc who has a lesson or two to learn about bedside manner, because you could very much tell that this is either the first time or one of the very rare times that he had to deliver the bad news. And the bad news was they found a tumor. And I had colon cancer. And it was of a size that was concerning, not just because of the size that it was, but because my blood work had been clean as a whistle in August before. Meaning it got to the size it did in a very short amount of time. And I'll tell you, those first 48 hours were maybe the darkest I've ever had, partly because of his bedside manner. I'm not going to mince words, but I'm not going to throw names under the bus, but partly because it's just, whatever energy that I give online, whatever energy I give in the classroom, whatever energy that we do in these interviews or at a con or whatever, I've got a master's degree in pessimism. You can literally be pouring water into a glass and it is spilling over the top. And you give me 2 minutes and I will convince you it is almost empty. I'm good at it. And so those first 48 hours as we're waiting for CT results of the whole body scan, has it spread everywhere? What is it? It was rough. And the CT scan suggested, a couple days later, suggested that it was pretty much contained to the colon. Good news. A couple other spots of concern here and there, but they don't think it's cancer. It's something we're monitoring years and years into the future. And then you start the process of, okay, well, if it's contained, that means surgery is at least the first option. And kind of weighing, you do the second opinion thing. You go to this doctor, this surgeon, that surgeon, this hospital, that hospital. And we had our hearts and minds set on a certain hospital in southeastern Michigan that has a massive good reputation. And yet we went into that meeting and it just went wrong. The vibe was off, which is kind of hard to put your finger on. And then something that the doctor said, and again, I'm not going to name names or anything because I respect all these people in the job that they do, but I had a doctor kind of do, when somebody can literally talk out of both sides of their mouth, like contradict themselves almost within the same sentence. And this doctor said to my wife and I, doctors, we don't think about cancer in days and weeks. We think about it in months and years, which is apparently true. But at the same time, he said, and yet it's pretty concerning because of how fast it's grown and the size it's got to. Well, which one is it? So we ended up going with our original surgeon, our original hospital, who literally had me under the knife less than a week after my meeting with them and 4 days after the meeting with the second hospital. And the second hospital was going to be 3-4 weeks later. So I was in surgery before the end of August. And they cut out 24 centimeters of my sigmoid colon, clean margins, scooped out 27 lymph nodes, sent that off to pathology. And every step of the process is hurry up and wait. Good news, bad news, but hurry up and wait. And so we waited for those results, and those were clean. It's like it's literally each step of the way, it's as good as it can be, but then you're waiting because the next thing could be just as bad as the first thing. So everything's clean, and that's all good news. So you're at this point where you start to go into what we call standard of care, which is if the results are the results that I had, right? I got out of surgery, got out of the hospital. I set. Okay. This is embarrassing, and yet I'm so proud of it. I have to tell you, I set the. I mean, you don't actually keep a record, but like the nurses all know, I set the floor hospital record for getting discharged the fastest out of any colon cancer patient. I got out in under 48 hours and got sent home. It's supposed to take anywhere 4 days to 2 weeks, depending on how lazy you are with the walking and stuff. But I was like, I'm going to win recovery. So I was like literally a few hours after surgery, like up walking around. Well, there's that picture that's like my my icon on Instagram right now, which is like me like flexing with an IV in my arm in the hospital gown, like lumbering down the hallway. Like I was gonna win recovery. So I go home, start recovering, and then you go standard of care, which is blood work every 3 months, CT scan every 6 months, and a new colonoscopy once a year. Okay, and that's good, and that's about as good a news as you can get. And with people with my results, it's like a 90-10 thing. Like they monitor you for 5 years and 90% survival rate, 10% it comes back regression and probably kills you because when it shows up, it's not necessarily going to show up a place where you can operate. You know, it's going to show up in your kidneys, it's going to show up in your lungs, and that's probably about it. And so, but it's good odds, right? Then I go to see the oncologist, and he's like, "Your age, your results. I've got a clinical trial. Let me tell you about it, see if you're interested." And the clinical trial that I entered, they give you this blood test, and the blood test tests for this stuff called ctDNA, which is basically circulating tumor DNA, which is like microscopic pre-cell cancer that's floating through your system. It's the stuff that latches on somewhere and then regenerates and turns into cancer, right? And the blood test is not the clinical trial. The blood test is just science. They know if you've got it or not. And if you've got it, you are 100% guaranteed the cancer will come back. Okay? So they test for that. And then the experiment is, because there's no science today that proves that there's a way to kill ctDNA, right? Like chemo does what chemo does to a tumor. Radiation does what radiation does to something in your lymph nodes or whatever, right? But there's nothing that's been proven that you can kill it at this level. So that's the trial. If you've got it, you're going to go on like this 6-month experimental chemo treatment to see if they can knock it out of you before it actually becomes cancer again. And if that trial works out and that science is good, it literally will revolutionize science because suddenly you're testing healthy 25-year-olds, right? And if they've got ctDNA floating around, you come back and you're just like, "Hey, you're starting chemo next month." They're like, "Oh my God, do you have cancer?" They're like, "No, but you're going to, so we're going to kill it before it goes." So that's the trial I entered. And I won the coin flip because it's a 50-50 chance to be in the control group where they test you and they just let you go, or the experimental group. So I won that coin flip. I'm in an experimental group, and they're just testing my blood every 3 months. And so far, I'm ctDNA free, which is like literally the best case scenario of best case scenarios. So what's going on right now is I'm back to standard of care. I've got more blood tests than a normal patient just because I'm still in the clinical trial and you're just testing and testing to make sure that you stay ctDNA free. And literally what I've got to complain about right now is just like weird post-surgery stuff. Like the big ball of death inside of me is no longer there. That's gone. And the monitoring is all that's left. And now it's just like, you know, is this a surgery? Is this, I'm just now an old man and I'm falling apart anyway? And like, you know, like I gotta pee more often, you know, like stuff that I don't like to talk about the way I really openly talked about the cancer journey on IG because it just sounds like whining to me. Like, okay, so I got to get up and pee in the middle of the night a couple more times. You know what? Okay, that was going to happen in 10 years, 15 years anyway. Get over it. Prostate as big as a house. I'll be fine. You know? So, a crazy journey. And then, like, professionally, like I said, it just derailed the order of when books are going to come out, when I'm doing the things. But again, small time compared to, you know, 1 minute, I'm sitting there going, so when I'm gone in a few months, what are we going to do to as positive an outlook as you can have?
Hmm. Interesting, man. Man, I'm so glad that you know, for now you're good, and that they're keeping a close eye on you. It's funny that you said that. I don't know exactly if it's what there's some rapper actually. He's like from the Bay Area, but he's actually really well known now, kind of around um, the nation and whatever. But he actually had colon cancer as well. I think he's 39 or 40. He's only like a year or two older than me, and he said that there was some type of like testing that they can do on younger people to, but he said like something about the test was like too expensive, that he was going to try to work with like, I don't know, some type of media and doctors to try to like get it out there and try to promote, this blood work or whatever test that they do to be able to prevent colon cancer in early stages. Because with you sharing that, it sounds kind of almost like the same thing that he was talking about, but he said that the test or the blood work is like $1,000 something dollars, and that most people just won't go and pay $1,000 for this blood work. So it's, especially people in like underprivileged communities and whatnot. That's what he wants to spread awareness to, so people can get this test, that's so expensive, but so beneficial. So it's probably the same thing.
Same thing. And then the reason why I could afford it, even with insurance, is because I was part of the clinical trial, but like you saw on that run of posts that I did, it's, do you remember, I feel like I said this on the show before, like the thing that I was probably most proud of in the parallel process first time around was like when somebody who read it connected with like the mental health portion. And it was like, oh, I read this, I related, I'm going to go talk to somebody because I didn't feel as alone. Like that was worth, I would trade 1 million sales for that one person who made that connection. And with this journey and the feedback that I got online, there was nothing more gratifying, nothing more heartwarming than the person who reached out to his DM. It's a public comment that was like, I'm going to get scanned next week. Like I'm going next month. I made my appointment. My dad's been pushing it off. I'm sending him, that kind of thing. Because no joke, no hyperbole. Forget I wouldn't have made it to 50. That's a foregone conclusion. I would not have made it to 50. I didn't tell you. I mean, the tumor, when they took it out, had eaten through 3 of the 4 colon walls. It was literally, a day, a week, 5 seconds away from breaking through that last wall. Cancer doesn't keep time the way that one doctor suggested it does. And then it would have been out in the open, and it's a whole different ballgame, right? It's automatically stage 4 at that point, and it could be anywhere and everywhere. Forget making it to 50. That wasn't going to happen. I don't know that I would have made it to 46. So, the routine scan. Remember, I was asymptomatic. I didn't go because I was like, I'm bleeding or something like that. I went because my doctor said, hey, go, you're 45. The only reason I went, the only reason they caught it when they did. So my message for the last couple of months is just like don't put off your doctor's appointment. It's something that I've traditionally done personally in my life. I love not going to the doctor. I'm good at that too. I'm like, it'll be fine. Hey, your leg's falling off. It'll be fine tomorrow. I'll sleep it off. It'll be fine. Don't. Get your mom there, get your dad there, get your loved ones there, and you go yourself. Whatever the checkup is. I'm not just talking about getting your colonoscopy, though. Do that too. I'm not just talking about that scan. Go get checked. They're the professionals. They'll let you know. It's better.
I mean, that's absolutely insane because I'm thinking throughout this whole journey, and like you said, you were asymptomatic. You just went because the law had changed and they're going to go ahead and recommend it. Like, oh yeah, sure. And it could have been like the day of the week, like, oh, I got a free day on this day, whatever. Or, so you go there and something like that. If you don't pray to anything or anyone, that'll make you question or, start to believe in something. Because holy crap, that's what timing. That's amazing.
I mean, you can pretty much say that one time the law saved your life.
There you go.
For sure. Yep.
I haven't. I mean, the law saved my life too. When I had I was in a crazy car accident. If I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, which is the law in California, I'm sure the United States, right? It's just man, I probably could have been a goner as well. So, man, laws, I guess, can save lives at times. So, a lot of laws, but man, that's crazy, dude. The law had just changed. You had just turned, and man,
The age.
That's a miracle.
The stack of serendipity is pretty mind bending for sure.
Unbelievable.
So you had your new Kickstarter project already, in the works and whatnot.
Yeah,
and
the plan was August. The plan was August. I like at latest. I mean, we were in the early stages, so like I could have seen a half August, half September. I would have seen a full September at the latest. But it was that was the timing. It was to do. First run of Parallel is done. Jane American Kickstarter Parallel Special Edition. After that, Jane American gets it filled out there, and then we start working on the next version, the bigger version of it, and stuff like that, which kind of made sense, like the back and forth of it. But hey, life happens, right? In this case, a little life saving happened, and we're doing it in this order instead.
So for Jane America, I know it's online, but sometime hopefully soon we get an in-print version and not Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
And special edition Parallel. Do you have any plans in like the next 6 months, or at least in 2023, to go to any cons? At least not just in your area, but back to Baltimore, maybe even West Coast. Anything?
Listen, it became very, because that was like late in the process, right? Like I was supposed to, I mean, April, May, June, July, August of 2020 was supposed to be that thing, right? Like it hit stores. I've got all these signings booked. I'm going to do all these conventions and go all these places, and that just didn't happen. So like the convention and the public appearance part of it didn't happen until like almost 18 months later. And it ended up being like, that delayed gratification ended up being wonderful, because it ended up being maybe my favorite part. Like being at the con and spending those 3 days. I don't care how bad my back hurt at the end of those 3 days. It was bliss. I loved it. And honestly, it's what I've been jonesing for. It's what I've been missing. So like my plan is, my hope is, I'm booking some signings. Like I've got a place where I'm going to be for a free comic book day, and I've got a couple others that are kind of tentatively scheduled right now. So those are going to happen, and then my hope is that I get to go to as many Source Point conventions as possible, and spread out as far as I can. Nothing's quite locked down yet, because schedules are still being set, but that's my hope and my want, because I love it. I love the interaction. I love signing books. I love pitching the book even. I don't think I got to tell you guys this the last time I was on, but like it caught me off guard. The perfect translation from a middle school classroom to the cons blew my mind. Because the repetition, right? The same lesson like 5-6 times a day, like hitting the same joke for the same hour, and it sounds like the first time, 5th hour as it does first hour. That it's perfect. It's perfect, because you're doing that same pitch like a couple hundred times over the weekend, but you got to make it sound like they're the first ones hearing it, right? And it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day, give them the best experience they can, because that might be the only interaction they ever have with you. And I loved it. It was fun. It's fun. Like I got a lot of energy there, and I'm exhausted when I get home, but yeah. I can't wait to get back out there for sure.
It's like you had like a raspy voice and your jaw hurt from having to smile so often.
It's like a celebrity or an athlete, right? It's like they could be nice 100 times, but the one time, someone's cell phone camera catches them being a punk to a little kid because life was happening to them that day. It's like it's the end of the world now.
Well, so I came to my decision about who I was going to be on that side of the table through two things. And one is very much the classroom, right? Like if you're doing your job right, it could be a kid that you literally can't stand. They should never be able to tell, right? You could be having the worst day. They should never know. So there's that aspect to it. And that combined with the fact that, like I've mentioned you before, like I've been a fan many decades longer than I've been a creator. So like I went to my fair share of cons and met my fair share of heroes. Never meet your heroes unless your heroes are great to meet, right? That whole thing. And like every single interaction I had with a creator before I was one myself, I clocked all that. I stored all of that. The good ones, the bad ones, the stuff that was like, oh my God, there is no reason other than you're a good human being that you're giving me this much time, this much attention, signing this many of my dumb books or whatever it is. Or the next person who's like, I financially supported you and you're kind of not being nice right now. And I get that there's a long line, and I get that a lot of these people are weirdos. I get that it's like a brain suck on you, but like I just wanted to tell you how cool you are and sign a couple of books. And it's like there's no reason to treat anybody who's there to support you
right
anything less than respect them as a human being at bare minimum. So that's something I kind of took from my own interactions, and then from how I know to behave in the classroom and interact with kids. And I just took that there, and it's kind of like my mantra every time I'm out there in public. Every time.
You're not one of those teachers that have been getting in those fist fights with these kids lately. You've been saying to these kids are crazy these days.
I have, unfortunate to say, I have broken up one or two fights over the last 23 years, but I've never been in one myself.
Then you've only actually had what grade are you teaching?
8th grade right now.
And you've only had to break up 2 fights in all those years?
No, those are both at elementary school level. I've never had to break up in middle school. I don't know. I'd probably get in the middle, and I'd probably get my clock clean just by getting in the middle of it. I don't think I would. I don't know if I touch that. Oh no, I had to break up a couple of elementary school fights back in the day though.
Wow. Mark, I remember going back to me and Mark went in the same junior high, same high school. We had a fight like every week at least.
Yeah, but it's not always in the same classroom.
Or that's true. Or even same area of like the quad or the whatever by the gym or whatever. Jason, like so moving forward, so kind of. How do I? It's a simple question. Like, what are you reading nowadays? Like, what are you watching nowadays? Like, any kind of streaming shows, movies. Like, what are you reading? Because you posted something about Mike Mignola. You've been reading a lot of him. But and then also anything new. So kind of just get into something, stuff that you've been doing nowadays in the world of nerdom.
Okay, so I watched Sandman with my youngest, and she loved it. And like Neil's my hero, so like that I really, really enjoyed that. I thought Andor was like the best Star Wars related content in maybe since I was a child. Like literally just a brilliant piece of television. That's
the
out
only
there.
One I haven't seen yet. I'm all caught up on like Mandalorian season 1, 2, and then Boba Fett. But Andor haven't touched it yet. You run the risk of watching Andor. Like if you're a movie and a content snob with any percentage degree at all, there's a chance that you watch Andor and go, am I overrating this because there's a lot of mediocrity in the Star Wars expanded universe right now? Or is this that good? And my belief is it's that good. I mean, it's literally so well written. There isn't a bad acting move in it. It's, it's Tony Gilroy. It's like watching Michael Clayton, but in Star Wars. It's unbelievably put together. It is so good. There's points where you're just going, I can't believe this is happening in my favorite universe. Like Star Wars, like as much as I love it, as much as it was my life from 3 years old, it's like I don't know that Star Wars deserves something of this high of quality. like I don't know how we go forward now. I kind of felt
so. I just
I kind of felt similar with Rogue One. Like, is it because other things are so mediocre? But no, I can watch that thing 20, 30, 40 times, and I don't know if everybody else out there in the Twitterverse and IG-verse or whatever agree with me, but that is arguably the best thing that I've seen since the start of this new era, episode 7 and on.
Right. So that's Tony Gilroy coming in and mopping up a mess, right? That what you like about Rogue One is mostly Tony Gilroy using his skills as a writer, as a director, as a shepherd of content with pieces that were already there and turning it into what it turned into. you extrapolate that into now he's had a few years to put it together, and this is what it then becomes, and it's just mind blowing in my opinion.
Awesome.
I love it. So I've really loved those. My middle daughter is Avatar crazy right now, so I don't know how, because like sometimes I can't find enough time at night to read a 22-page floppy, and yet somehow in 1 week I got her to the theater twice to see a 3.25-hour movie.
That's crazy.
So that's been pumping into my brain lately. And then as far as reading goes, you know what I just read? Oh, Worlds Colliding. So big collected volume of The Killer came out a couple months ago, and I just read it. So there's a David Fincher movie coming out on Netflix this year, which is based on this French comic, and that was pretty cool. And I'm always going to give a shout out because I think maybe my favorite thing over the last couple of years, just because they're such a dynamic duo together as a creative team, and everything they do is so good. And he is one of my inspirations for creating the back matter and the extra content that I did in parallel. It's Brubaker and Phillips' Reckless series that comes out like once a quarter or whatever, and he does the original graphic novels. I wait with bated breath for every single one of those, and I do this thing that I sometimes do with my favorite series that have any kind of overlap from the previous volume and this is not very time efficient, but I love doing it anyway. So if like you're on volume 3 or 4, before I read volume 4, I go back and reread 1, 2, and 3 again, and then it's all stringing together, which is just a complete time suck, but I love it. And they are so good together, and it's probably my favorite thing that's come out over the last couple of years, and I just wait with bated breath every like 4 months, every quarter for them to put out a new Reckless book.
I mean, we consume so much for the show, partly because we're so fortunate to have the sponsor that we do in Treasure Island. But I mean, the more we do, like the more, especially diverse of what I read than from what Mark reads and what Sean reads, it's like, that's just the more content that we want to put out for the fans. Right. So, I mean, and it's unfortunate because we read a lot of good things, but I'm going to go back in a couple years and realize that, you know what, I should have slowed down and appreciated this, and this more, because like right now there's only a handful of things that I can truly say that I really, really like right now. Like these Batman One Bad Days, these one shots of all of his rogues of, the rogue gallery of villains. It's either one whole big story or a couple short stories, mixed in between. But like, man, everything from Batman to Spider-Man to Daredevil to all of these small publishers, from Ablaze Comics over to Source Point to AWA to Aftershock, Image, and all and everything. Man, we consume so much, and it's super appreciative. But I feel that when, if and when in the next 10, 20, 50 years that we're done with this podcast, man, I'm going to concentrate on just like one at a time.
It's a pretty, when you think about it, and try not to think about it too much, you probably get depressed. It's like a pretty sick irony with the fact that more content comes out as time goes forward. You have less time because you're getting older. And it just kind of like, because I want part of my experience to be, not only do I want to experience new stuff, not only do I want to see the next thing that comes out that I don't know about, the next thing that comes out from somebody that I do know about, but I really, really enjoy going back and revisiting my favorite things. And content grows exponentially as your time shrinks going forward. And it's like, it becomes frustrating. Like, my reading stack doesn't get smaller. It just gets bigger. And, hey, cancer isn't coming for me today. And I've kind of stepped away from the mortality, walking the razor's edge. Like I can pretend that death isn't looming on my shoulder right now for a little while, but like, my time isn't infinite. Right. And I want to go back and reread all of it again at some point. But I'm not going to do that and completely sacrifice new things coming out at the same time. So it's kind of like that catch-22 of like, oh my God, so much. And I'm not complaining about that because that's always a good thing. But at the same time, so much.
we get so much stuff coming out right now. It's just all these events, Lazarus Planet now that Mike's on. I told him like I'm gonna kind of have to skip on this event now that DC's got going on. But dude, you're so right. Like we've been doing this podcast
Almost 4 years now.
Almost 4 years, 2019. And dude, I was in storage the other day and it's like, what, like 8 boxes now? Obviously not the long ones, but the shorter ones. And it's just man, like, thank you, Treasure Island, like Mike said, our sponsor. But I'm just like, we've been collecting them, and I can't believe in 4 years I've racked up that many comics. It's pretty crazy.
I'm still doing my own thing, which I've done since I was a little kid in my first run of comics, which is like I'm still 50-50. I'm still half collector and half reader. So I'm not only just like getting the new trade or the new floppy of whoever I'm following or whatever I'm following, I'm still hunting down those runs that I want to complete or that run of, Magnolia covers that I love, whatever it is. So at the same time, like, it's just, my long boxes are, they're silly now. It's I look at it and go, ooh.
Right. And then I go into the garage and I see I've gone into the vicious cycle of getting the same stack that I'm getting, right? But now over the last, I want to say 12 to 18 months when I randomly go in, because I live about an hour away from Treasure Island now, but when I go in, like every other time, I have the first volume of The Boys, still haven't read. I have Kingdom Come, the first volume of Brian Michael Bendis' Moon Knight. I have The Last Halloween and then the books that followed, like the 3 or 4 books that followed, like the collected editions. I have all that to read. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and read The Boys tonight. I'm like, oh wait, never mind. I have 9 books to read in the next 1 or 2 nights to get ready for the podcast because I want to do that. So I mean, it's a vicious cycle, but I mean,
I want you to get boys though. I want you to get to The Boys though.
I know.
Really good.
I know. And you know what? I get it's not a bad problem to have though. Like I sound like I'm complaining, but it's like I just love reading, right? Love it.
That's the cool thing about doing the podcast, though. It kind of keeps us in check and in line with having to keep up with our reading, so our stacks don't get 5 stacks of flapjacks tall or whatnot, By the way, I've never heard that before, and you've had me grinning ever since you said it because I thought it was hilarious. A 22-page floppy. That's what we're calling them now. We might have to call the episode the 22-page floppy. That was great.
How many floppies did you get this week, Mark?
Have you heard
how many
that,
floppies
Mike?
did you get this week, Mark? I'm getting like 9 floppies this week.
Have you heard that before, Mike? The 22-page floppy, dude. I was cracking up inside when you said it. It was hilarious.
So let's collide the worlds of sports and comics yet again. It's one sport that we always have to talk about. Let's get in a little bit of hoops before we say goodbye to you tonight. So, how do you like the season going so far? We're almost at the All-Star break.
Little past halfway, right before the All-Star break. Trade deadline is a week and a half away or whatever it is. It's under 2 weeks for sure. Our beloved Dubs just got a victory tonight. I was thinking about the season, this season in particular, before we got on, and like I've heard a little rumblings here and there. 8th graders have said this to me actually, that like this season isn't that great, and I beg to differ. I think the parity in the league right now is
it's great,
spread out as it's been in a long, long time.
I agree.
I mean, the disadvantage of that is, like, if things continue the way they are right now, we're not going to have a 65-win team for a while, and that's whatever it is. But it's also like so wide open. Like the West is a mess. It's a beautiful mess. Like I'm not going to get the numbers right, but like the difference between like 4th and 12th is like a game and a half or something insane like that. It's like insane. And there's just so many, like there is almost no team in the league except for maybe my Pistons right now. There's almost no team in the league that doesn't have a couple of like legit, really good players. And the thing is, when you have 30 teams or 29 that can claim that, none of them are going to be ginormous. Nobody's getting, 70 games. Nobody's getting 70 wins because there's so many good players, right? I mean, like, look at OKC right now. Look at OKC, a team that preseason everybody was like, well, it's another tanking year. They're literally, hanging out around 500 and knocking on the play-in door, right? Because Shea is next level, and they don't even have their number. Their top pick from last year. Like, dude's still out. It's been crazy, and I've actually loved every minute of it. I mean, the wide open MVP race this year is wonderful. Like, it's like turning on a dime game to game, right? Like Jokic is going to do the Larry Bird thing for the last 2 months. He's going to get 3 in a row, and then Embiid makes him look like an amateur the other night, and suddenly it's Embiid's. It's great. Right. I absolutely love it. So my almost 17-year-old he made me promise that I would throw out a couple of his hot takes to the boys. He's like, wait a minute, you get to talk NBA on this show? I'm like, he's like, can I pass on a message? So he in crescendo order of importance of hot takes. Okay, he believes that the Joker is going to get his third MVP in a row.
Mark. Write them down.
Okay, that's not consensus, but it's there. He believes, and this one affects my fandom and your guys' hometown fandom, he believes that the Dubs are absolutely going to make a trade, going to make a move, probably for Caruso. He thinks Moody and one other player for Caruso. He's thinking, who did he think? He thought DiVincenzo, and I think they're going to hang on to him. But he's predicting the Dubs are going to finish 5th. Okay. And then here's his big hot take. This is going to ruffle some feathers. I hope nobody in Milwaukee is listening. He's predicting a Bucks loss in the first round.
Ooh. Okay.
I know. Okay, this is from a 16, almost 17-year-old NBA fan who has not had a lot of Pistons to cheer for. So he's deep in the Warriors with you and me and everybody else, and deep in the league in general, because he hasn't had a lot to cheer for here at home in his youth.
Like, for someone like me over the past couple of years, especially doing this podcast, our season preview every year is, all right, let's go to the Vegas odds. Who's the top 3, 4, 5 preseason Vegas odds? You don't even have to include the other 25 teams. One of those 5 teams is going to make it. There's zero parity, blah, 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 blah. So this season, you know what? I'm actually liking this. I'm like, the Sacramento Kings are in 3rd place right now in the West. And then Sean says, the Kings are going to Kings, though. They might even finish 8th place or even out of the playoffs, So it's so much, up in the air. But randomly, I find myself tuning into TNT for a random game. So it's actually a breath of fresh air.
But I don't know. I mean, don't the Kings feel a little different this year? I know the Kings. The Kings do their little hopeful streak at one point in the season, the last 8 seasons, and then it becomes the Kings again.
Sacramento's only an hour away from my house, so I have to be careful with what I say.
This feels different to me. It legit feels different to me. This is not a finals team, but it is a real team for the first time in a long time. Light the beam is real. Okay? Light the beam is real. They're lighting the beam every win at home. I think this is a real thing and something to build on. Yeah.
Mark, what do you think of the NBA season so far? I mean, we just talked about it, I think, last week. I mean, I think it's more enjoyable than the last couple, even with the Warriors not playing as well as they used to.
I was actually just looking up odds right now to try to put together if his 16, almost 17-year-old NBA fan son was looking at some of the Vegas odds here, because it's kind of chalky with it looks like right now it's kind of between that boy Luka, that boy Jokic, and Embiid's kind of up there, Tatum as well. But man, I mean, I'd be looking. He's looking like not a bad bet for your son. I mean, dude, the Joker, if he can do it. I know Curry won his 2 in a row. Obviously, that second one was unanimous. But, I mean, if Jokic can go ahead and do 3, here, it's pretty an amazing feat.
Since Larry Bird in the 80s.
Dude, I mean, and just the type of player that he is and his background and how he came up and how he was just a chubby little kid. And I mean, the dude's got vision, and that's the thing about some of these international players. I don't know if you've seen the kid that's supposed to be like the #1 pick in the draft. I think he's like a 7'1". Have you seen him? What's his name? Oh, I can't.
Wembyama is
the French kid.
7'3", almost like moves like a point guard.
It's like a 7'3" Kevin Durant.
Yeah, wow. He's let's just call it right now. He's coming to Detroit and turn around, and some of the pressure off Cade and his dumb out for the season shin, and it's going to be great having a 7'3" point guard on my team. I'm absolutely very excited about that. Absolutely happening, even though our odds are 14.3%. I think that's as close to a guaranteed #1 pick twice in 3 years. I think it's going to happen.
There you go. Well, we're going to go ahead and take care of your son's picks. We're going to go ahead and keep them in our back pocket, and we'll go ahead and unveil the results as the NBA season unfolds. But I mean, awesome. Super Bowl. The NFC and AFC championship games were yesterday. Didn't go as well for our hometown team 49ers. Not our team, for myself and Mark. But for Sean, who's not here, not a good Sunday. I texted him. I was like, "Hey, sorry, bud." He goes, "Oh wait, there was a game today? Oh, I didn't realize that." Because after Purdy, we didn't know it then, but he tore his UCL, so he's going to need some type of like a Tommy John surgery now that a starting pitcher would in the MLB. It didn't look good for them. They had Josh Johnson to count on, and then he goes down as well, and they had to put in Christian McCaffrey. So it was they needed damn near a miracle. But and then of course all I hear today are the refs. Of course the NFL is not, the genre isn't a sport, it's entertainment. So of course they scripted the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl again. So I don't know. So we'll see what happens. We have our Super Bowl preview show probably next week. Mark is going down to LA for the preseason NASCAR race. They take the LA Coliseum and they make it like what is it, Mark? Like a 3/4 mile track, a 2/3 mile track. It's very, very short. Only half the cars drive in it. But let's see his driver Joey Logano in the 22 Ford Pennzoil. His Ford Mustang. Let's see if he can repeat in 2023 because he was the 2022 champion earlier.
The 22 and 22.
So we'll see. But yeah, other than that, I got nothing else. Jason Douglas, again, for the 4th time coming on this show. Please just go. We will let you. Yeah, this is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? So go ahead and shout everything out. Get everything out. So hopefully everyone who's listening to this whole episode can hear it one more time and go order your books, support the Kickstarter and whatnot, and also give us your handle so people can go and follow your journey.
Absolutely. So FOC for Parallel Special Edition final order cutoff is February 20th, so we still got a little bit of time. Hit your LCS up, walk into your comic shop, old school, and use the diamond order code JAN 23 1872. So January 23 1872. That'll get you the book. It's also, it's in previews, this month. Check this out, guys. I don't know if you saw this, but they gave me a full page spread.
Beautiful.
I did. I remember
a full page. I was so honored when I was like that big of a blurb a couple of years ago. Look at this. This is a full page. So you can show them that. You can say SourcePoint Press. You can call it the name Parallel Special Edition. But the Diamond Order Code will get it. They've got their lunar code too. You can get it there. You can actually get it straight off of previewsworld.com and enter your LCS, and they'll ship it to your LCS, but you're ordering it through them if you can't get into your shop. You can get it from sourcepointpress.com as well, and they'll ship it to you. And then check out this. Let's talk about big time. You can get my book on Amazon.com. You can get my book on BarnesandNoble.com. Right. You do go to get links to your local bookshop, so you can get it anywhere and get it sent.
This is me, Mark, and Sean texting about you. This is from our text thread, so we're definitely shouting you, talking about you.
When I was going through previews and I seen it, I was like, wow. I sent him the text. I was like, dude, this dude's got a. I was like,
full
what?
Page. Dude, me too. I opened it up and I didn't know that was coming. I was like in an LCS and I opened it up and I was like, I may have dropped an explicit or two in front of like customers, like, whoa, because I did not see that coming either. So that was quite a surprise and quite an honor. So yeah, there's about you can find about 100 different ways to order at this time, which is kind of amazing. And then once it's in shops March 29th, hopefully I'll be on the road and coming somewhere near you so I can sign your books and at a convention or a signing, and just follow me on Instagram and you can find out when all that's happening. And it's a pretty simple handle and you can't miss me. It's just at J Douglas Writes, just the letter J. So at J Douglas Writes, and hit me up there, give me a follow, and get updated on the cancer stuff, get updated on when the Kickstarter starts and where I'm going to be, and definitely drop me a DM. I will talk your ear off just like we talk each other's ear offs here. No big time and fancy creator for me. I'll talk to you to the point where you need to go and you're like done talking with me. So, give me a follow there. I'd really appreciate it, and support indie comics. If Parallel's the way you're going to do it, but your dollar goes so far with indie comics. It literally puts food on the table, clothes on the back, and keep small companies running. That really their only point is to get good content out for you and enjoyable stories. So yeah, absolutely. The Kickstarter's coming to May, and I need everybody's help. And yeah, that's about it. But I appreciate the time, gentlemen. Appreciate the support. I love you. And go Warriors.
Yes, sir. All right, Mark, send us away for 176.
Yeah, definitely, man. Go Warriors, and good luck to your Pistons. The Warriors were there one time in my life as well. Just horrible, horrible, horrible. And, there's better times on the horizon as well, especially with you in your life, brother. Great to hear that you have battled this cancer and that right now you're good, and hopefully everything is good going forward, brother. Praying for you. So, man, I'm just so glad that you're here to deliver, your content, your vision with us, with the world, through your books, through your writing, and through your words here, man. I couldn't appreciate it more. We thank you again, fans. We hope that you enjoy Jason Douglas for the 4th time and his stories and all of his new stuff coming out. Make sure you check out his Kickstarter. Make sure you check us out on social media. As always, thecomicbookies@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. And yeah, man, just stay tuned. We got better stuff coming out always and forever. And we thank you guys. So yeah, thank you, man. 176. Appreciate everything.
So thank you, Treasure Island Comics. Thank you, Mark. Sean's not here, but he'll be back next week. Thank you, Jason Douglas. We love you for the 4th time and on to the 5th, 6th, and 20th time to be on this show. But yeah, fans, hope you like this episode. Go ahead and give us a sub on the YouTube page. Go follow us, and everyone enjoy the sports, enjoy the comics, and enjoy the hell out of each other. See you on 177. Bye.
Peace, and always enjoy each other. And make sure you enjoy Jason Douglas's new Kickstarter coming out in May. Check it out. Peace. We love y'all.